Hello and welcome to this webcast about Oracle Securely Run and Optimize Oracle Workloads. I'm Olaf Heimburger, a CISO specialist in the Oracle EMEA Technology Engineering Organization, and I'm joined by Ghassan Thadros, my colleague from my team, as he works as a security specialist. Today's topic is actually how to run your workloads in an OCI environment. But before we go into that, let's consider the 4 S's that we have. We simplify, strategize, standardize, and strengthen your security operations with your data and standardize on working on deployment models, hybrid and multi-cloud file. We strengthen your cyber resilience as a key pillar of your security strategy. To accomplish this, Oracle provides a number of security measures and tools to help you to make this possible and even budget-wise very compelling. Of course, we start with the enterprise class IAM. Every OCI tenancy has an IAM module for sure, because you need to manage your users and your policies for permissions to that, and make sure that nobody can work unexpectedly. So in addition, we provide data protection through encryption, which is available for free. Oracle Managed Key Protection and User Managed Key Protection is available. There is a vault for your customer managed key protection. For your database safety, we provide a tool for assessing and monitoring the database, which is called DataSafe. That is very similar to what you may know already as the DBSat tool or the Enterprise Manager Lifecycle Management. For handling certificates for TLS environments, we have a certificate service available. Posture management is done by CloudGuard, and security zones, customizable security zones that prevent taking a considerable action that can harm your environment. Vulnerability scanning is available for all your VMs. Security Advisor helps you to use the most of the available tools, and threat intelligence monitors every activity signing into your environment, connecting to your environment, and with the common threats are well known, then it will address the attack. OS workload protection for a dedicated VM or through a dedicated serviced bastion service, not a bastion host you have to implement and maintain, but the service that we maintain, make sure that it's available and hard all the time, providing sessions for accessing private IP numbers or private resources. OS management helps you to free you from the patching cycle of your environments, like Linux environments or Windows environments. It takes care of them and makes sure that they are updated on a scheduled manner. Shielded instance or confidential computing instance allow you to use TPM, protected environments, or even secure memory environments. Network protection has a DDoS protection enabled all the time without anything extra you need to configure or disable. It's always on and available for free. Security lists and groups are the means for virtual firewalls, for virtual traffic routing, for your networking, and are available for everything. Most of the resources, as you can see, are available for free. The green ones are for free. Some of them cost money, like the web application firewall or a network firewall. Some of them have additional supplementary fees, for example, by the DataSafe, if budget or a bucket storage threshold is hit, then you have to pay a little money for that, but you can also define whether you purge it or not. When it comes to an separation of duties, that is the key message of the environment. You first go in as a IAM or as an OCI administrator. So the first time you log in, and we show that pretty soon, you are an administrator and you have all the permissions. It's like in the old Windows 3.11 environment where you can create whatever you want, wherever you want this, and have no protection against that. Being an administrator is a very responsible role and requires you that you take care of that and you make sure that your environment is protected and is secure. That includes not only permissions granted to other administrators or platform administrators, but also make sure that nobody can access your environment. To make sure that our other administrators and not the super user administrators do what only they are allowed to do, you should create compartment administrators that are assigned to a compartment, a logical grouping with the possibility to assign permissions to that. The access policies for these grant access to the resources expected in these compartments or defined in these compartments. You can also define specific identity domains, user stores for your applications, for example, that grant access only to the applications maintained in the compartments and for different stages like production and non-production. I mentioned the threat detector or the threat monitor. Oh, wait, the policies that we have here are defined in a very easy way to understand. You grant allow access, you only allow access. There is no denial of permissions, and then specify the identity domain, either the default domain that applies to the whole tenancy or the specific identity domain like identity domain 1 or 2, then for a specific resource like a compute instance or a database, whether it can be used or managed and in which compartment it can be done. There are also conditions available that can grant the access for a period of time or for a specific location. For example, if your tenancy spans across the globe and you want to have the administrators in Asia just work in the Asia regions, then you specify the region in the condition for that. The threat detector monitors, as I already told you, the whole tenancy all the time and shows you what is happening and also flags specific threats. Rogue users are of particular interest, users that are not expected to log into your environment and misuse it in a way you did not anticipate it. Okay, onboarding guidance. When you start with your tenancy, you have to take care of it. It is like your data center, it is like your home, it is your precious environment. But before you do this, remember, don't rush into it. Don't get too excited just to start everything and make and do whatever you think it's possible and helps you. First, think of it. Do a proper design, follow best practices. At the end, we show you some best practice with a landing zone, for example, following the CIS benchmark for the OCI environment. In my demo, I show you how your account is responsible for it, a bit of word for the password hygiene, multi-factor authentication, what is enabled, how you can monitor that, creating specific users. For example, an emergency team is not only you, but someone else who can stand in while you are away for some reason, or if something else breaks. Budget control is a nice little thing that allows you to monitor your environment with unexpected budgeting. For example, someone creating resources that are not expected for that. On the daily administration, we have different users that use that, not the emergency, or not the cloud account or the administrators in general. And then at the end, I'll show you how to monitor all these users with a tool called Adaptive Security, and of course CloudGuard, as it monitors the whole tenancy and threat monitoring. Before we go into deep in the demo, a quick word about password policies. It is common to have a password policy. For example, the CIS recommendation is to have a password policy with 14 characters long, 1 uppercase letter, 1 lowercase letter, 1 number, 1 special character, and refresh it after every 90 days. Here you see a screenshot of a tenancy without identity domains. It matches the password policy, but is it really safe? Some people rely on that, but given that welcome 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7 exclamation mark password, it is not safe, but it matches the password policy. Unfortunately, it is easy to guess, and because some people are lazy when it comes to refreshing the password, it will change just with a single character, and it's still easy to guess. For password hygiene, recommend also use a proper tooling. Use a password manager. Do not create a password that you can easily remember. Use something that is generated by the password manager. Therefore, you have no need to remember your password anymore. And at the end, use multi-factor authentication. Both are part of the demo as well. I don't know the password to access the environment, and therefore cannot tell you what the password is. I use a password manager for that, and I have to specify my multi-factor for that. Let's drill into the demo. Okay, first of all, it is something I need to show here. I need to log into that one with my account, of course, as I'm a cloud account administrator for that environment. I need, of course, provide my password for login. But then I need to present a multi-factor and verify that. That brings me immediately to my environment. And when I go to the domain, which is my major part of working with users and groups and policies, I first check the security settings. Every environment comes with sign-on policies. It doesn't matter whether you use identity domains or IDCS. That's the previous version of that. Nowadays, we provide 2 sign-on policies for this. The default sign-on policy, which is very basic, allows access with username and password, and a security policy for the OCI console, which enables multi-factor authentication. You can deactivate this, but I don't recommend to do this. The rules in here are for all administrators and for all users. Administrators are handled differently because they have more permissions and need to be additionally secured. So administrators are members of the administrators group and also domain administrators. That is a specific role that is not bound to OCI groups. It is bound to the identity domain as an administrator rule. No matter where you come from, you will be done in here. And you see also adaptive security, which I discuss later. The factors that are enabled are multiple possible ones. Mobile application through a mobile application like an Oracle authenticator or a third-party authenticator. FIDO authenticator is also allowed for that. Every time you log in, you will be asked to provide the multi-factor. And if you haven't done this before, you are required to enroll in here. The same is true for all the users, but without any group restrictions. So we don't select a group and we don't watch for the administrators. It should apply to every user and allows you to use the same. Again, enrollment is required in every time. So what is the enrollment? Let me check my profile for that. My profile is actually part of the security. And as you can see, I have a mobile app registered for it. I also have email registered for it. But very often it happens that I switch my phones, for example, getting a new phone, then I have to provide a new factor for that. That existing factor does not work anymore, so I can, in the meantime, add a mobile app like this one. This is the QR code for the Oracle authenticator. But if I have something like the Microsoft authenticator or the Google authenticator, I can use that code and register for it. That can work as well. Be aware that in the Microsoft authenticator, you have to get to the third session, which is third party, not business, not private email in here. Creating a second factor for the administrators group can also work with a 4 eyes principle. So you can use that mechanism to ask your colleague, emergency administrator's colleague, to enroll his mobile app as well. Okay, yes, let's switch to the users. The users itself are actually part of the setup. So you usually start with a single account, which is the account that you do yourself, and you can have local accounts just in the default domain or in the domain, or users that are federated. Federated users are set up in the security part as an identity provider and synchronized in here. In this environment, I have specified a number of users. One is an emergency user, someone who can help when I'm not available, and he is a member of the administrators group. On the other hand, I have, as a separation of duties, a non-production user for a non-production group or a production user for a production group. And someone else, TomTom, is not allowed to do anything. So when TomTom logs in, he is not able to do anything what is possible, not even browsing around. That is very important in here. Okay, that is groups, but groups does not tell you how to apply these, and therefore we have policies for that. Policies define what you can do. For example, a administration policy or a group for a production environment. So for example, that a member of a group of the production group can work in the production environment or inspect what's in here. The other one is the administration policy. That is bound to the production as well. So I can manage everything in here, but I cannot do anything else in the tenancy. So when I go there, I'm just bound to the compartment. The compartment itself is structured in here, so I can create some compartments. This is the root compartment, the mother of everything. This has a predefined compartment for our PaaS services, and we have additional compartments, for example, for a production environment and for a test environment. And the policies apply to these compartments and not to the other compartments. Okay, good. One thing that is very, very helpful is creating a budget control. For example, for the whole tenancy, I can create a budget control to allow us to monitor the whole environment. Let's have a small budget available for that. Every month it will be checked, and start doing this. I just, well, let's get 10%, make it a bit useful, and I get the notification mail when someone breaks the budget barrier, the threshold. So immediately this tiny little tool allows you to monitor your environment or get alerted once something unusual happens. And when I create this, it will send out mails to my account to, well, let's see, come on, there it is. Once the budget is overused, immediately, for example, the threshold spend nothing but an amount of $10, and 10% of it, which is $1, immediately kicks in when that is misused or unexpected usages in there. That really helps to monitor your environment without additional ones. It is just an additional measurement that quickly kicks in and helps you to monitor it. Let's go down to the domain again. Adaptive security monitors my environment, and when I enable it, it is enabled. It shows you what's possible in there. What does it provide? It has a risk provider which checks several settings: too many unsuccessful MFA attempts, impossible travel, suspicious IP addresses, unknown devices, unsuccessful login attempts, or unfamiliar locations. So for example, I'm actually logged in through the VPN. If I log out of the VPN, I'm instantly away from my usual location and will be monitored or detected as a risk. Also, impossible traveling within 5 minutes for 400 kilometers is a challenge, and therefore it will be a risk as well. So enabling helps you to monitor your users. We usually see what's going on with the user. For example, check myself in here and check my risk factor, my risk score. My risk score currently is, well, 100% no risk, because I'm behaving as expected. It will change, possibly it will change, but we recommend first that you monitor it and that you see how the users behave. you can check every user or just the administrators and make sure that you don't see any possible problems. But if you see any possible problems, you can go to your sign-on policies and enable that as an additional risk in here. For example, as we saw already in the conditions, you specify a range of, for example, high, select the provider. Well, that is in here. Okay, that is medium. And then say it is about 50%. Then we can enable additional one. General practice is not to do this in the predefined MFA settings, but create an additional sign-on rule that triggers before the default rule. So you create a new sign-on rule, adaptive in here, and make sure that one is provided in here. And prompt for an additional factor, any factor, add the sign-on rule in here, added the priority, put it in here, and you're done. That will trigger. I'd delete this one because I'm not showing this in this demo anymore again. So that is your central hygiene of what you can do with your environment before you start working. First of all, make sure that the users that you have are not all administrators. You have a dedicated team for your emergency. You have dedicated teams for the environment specific to production, non-production, and also make sure that unexpected users like this one don't have any permissions. Be aware of the emergency team, of course. That is really important. Then make sure that you have the sign-on policies in place with MFA. That is key. MFA, we don't go without any MFA again. And also enable adaptive security for your environment, monitoring it. And when it learns, then you can also define a sign-on policy for that. And finally, for that environment, budget control, that has a budget control for the whole tenancy. That you can start with a small amount, but if that is different, of course, edit this, change the threshold, or also change the budget amount, say to $10,000, whatever budget you have, and make sure that nobody takes care of that. So the budget control helps you to monitor your environment, helps you to check whether that is okay or not. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the CloudGuard environment. CloudGuard cannot be enabled in this environment. This is very similar to a free, always free tenancy where you are not allowed to do that. So therefore we go into that one. I have to, oh, that's a different one. No, it's, yes, of course, that is the different screen. Of course, here is, that is that screen. CloudGuard itself shows us what's happening in the environment. You can drill down by problems by compartment, by region, or by resource type. For example, groups are, well, problematic a bit, or you see the critical environments where we see what is happening in here. In this environment, I also see that vulnerabilities, virtual vulnerability scanning is enabled for that. So if the host operating system is out of date and the software included in there has vulnerabilities. And let's see what we get in here. Yes, some CVEs are in there. Let's see whether that still applies for that. We click on that. And yeah, well, it's running. It shows us in the OS management, for example, that we don't have, oh, there are some bugs already. So we have to make sure that the updates are in place. With OS management, we are able to just trigger that, install all updates, and OCI takes care of that. Okay, going back to CloudGuard, we also have a means to verify here. We of course follow that one, but threat monitoring itself shows you what's happening in here. So something happened before. At the moment, it's very quiet, not a problem, but we can go, well, we don't see anything here yet. Okay, that's the end of my part. And I'm now happy to hand over to Ghassan to continue with the second part.
Thank you. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And or if you are watching this later. So Olaf showed us many steps that we can take to secure OCI and secure our workloads on OCI. So let's talk more about what next steps we can take. So what can you do later this afternoon, tomorrow, or next Monday? So if you are doing things yourself, being cloud security team or cloud operation team, or anyone using OCI really. So we provide you with many tools to help you taking these steps and guide you through it. One of those is the CIS benchmark and landing zone, which we will discuss in more details today. So if you didn't work with CIS before, let's quickly introduce it. So CIS stands for Center of Internet Security. And if you go to their website, basically, what Center of Internet Security is, it's basically a global community of subject matter experts that they, it's a non-profit organization that they build up teams of subject matter experts from global community. They come together about certain subject or certain system, and they, based on consensus approach, they come up with a benchmark, right? To simplify that, it is basically a baseline of configurations and things you do about in that system when you're setting it up. Make sure that it is secure, securely configured, right? Following at least best practices. So that is what benchmarks are. So let's discuss a bit of what it is not meant to be, right? So that benchmark is not a regulation that you have to comply with. Also, it is not meant to be an exhaustive list of controls that will cover every single thing in that system, right? That's why you call it a baseline. It's a great start, that things you should not miss when you start using that system. And so, as you guessed, we have one of those benchmarks created for Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. They have others for other cloud infrastructure, databases, operating systems. When it comes to database, they have one published for Oracle database, which I'll quickly discuss today. So that's what CIS benchmarks are. I recommend you go to their website, right? CISsecurity.org. You only need to provide, it's completely free. You only need to provide an email and download any benchmark you need. I recommend you download the one for OCI, because we will be building our security health check that I'll discuss today based on, right? So back to the tools we provide. Now, one interesting thing about these benchmarks is that I told you it's based on consensus approach. They also open the door for contribution from internet community, right? So you can contribute to that. Once you are on their website, you can choose to provide feedback, and they consider that in the next versions if they want to use it. So the CIS benchmark itself is, again, set of controls, like things that you need to do. We have it also available on GitHub as a Terraform script that will automate the deployment. So if you use that, it will build up your tenant or even a certain compartment inside your tenant, following all these best practices immediately, right? So that's a kind of automation. That's, again, a good start of a good design. It will build these components basically for you, the groups, the compartments, the policies that Olaf showed us today. It will enable certain security features and components like CloudGuard and others, right? So it's a great way of to start. But even if you don't use it as is, you can even use it as a reference, right? So what other tools we provide you is the reference architecture. Now, this is available on our architecture center. I really recommend, I believe you'll get a copy of these slides so you can access these links and have a look at the architecture center, where we provide many guided approach from our architects and developers for how to run securely, or like the best architecture for many different workloads, being on-premise solutions running on OCI, or even how to secure different components. Other than this, it is really good, and after you had a look at those, it's really good to have a look at the white paper for approaching zero trust security with OCI. It has really great tips of securing your users, your devices, and your systems. Now, other than this, CloudGuard, well, you saw that live with Olaf earlier. So CloudGuard is a security posture management, as Olaf said. It will look at your OCI configuration, user behavior as well, and connected to the threat intelligence. So if a bad actor is accessing your environment, user is acting in a risky manner, or you have a bad configuration, and for that matter, some of the configurations CloudGuard will detect as risky, they are also covered in CIS benchmark. Not all, but I mean, good part of that CloudGuard can detect automatically, right? Now, other tools, maybe we didn't discuss in details today, but OCI provides also DataSafe, a great tool for data security. So if you are using any flavor of Oracle database, being cloud, like DBCS, Autonomous, or even on-premise, like Database Enterprise Edition, I believe even Standard Edition. But if you're using any of those databases, whether you deploy it on OCI, like DBEE, or even if it's your on-premise data center, or even if it's autonomous, already native on OCI, you can monitor by DataSafe. Now, once you register, I believe Olaf covered that and quickly, but then what DataSafe will do is it will scan your databases and try to discover sensitive data. So you get visibility on where your sensitive data is scattered among how many instances, tables, even columns. And then you can choose to mask any non-production instances. So you don't expose your real data to, let's say, your analysts or your developers. That's very important. It can also analyze the audit logs of that database, and even the provide user access assessment, whether the user has too many privileges and what can they really do among all instances, so among your database fleet. It does one thing very interesting, also related to CIS benchmarks. It will monitor your database and provide you, I would say, compare your database configurations to CIS benchmark for Oracle database, and tell you how much you comply with those best practices or how much you deviate from. So that's a great tool. It also does the same by comparing it to other regulations like GDPR or STIG. So great way to look after your data security. So those tools are available. Use the links to get more details. And if you need any more help, of course, reach to your Oracle team of account cloud engineering or cloud adoption manager, or directly to us. Now, that's what you can, other steps that you can start taking immediately. And if you wish to have help from us, so we guide you through the standard security health check. So what is standard security health check? That's a service we run for your tenant, basically comparing your tenant configurations. I mean, you can start landing zone, deploying it immediately, being compliant with or following all the steps of the CIS benchmark. But if you already started, you already created the resources, and you are using OCI for a while, then it's really great to double check what's going on and how you're doing comparing to the CIS best practices. So we run this service, and then in a few minutes, we can tell you and give you a report of how close you are to those best practices and how many you have missed. And for those you have missed, the report will show detailed findings of exactly what components are causing this mismatch. So for example, if you take one of the controls is you need to have all your admins using MFA. If you are not matching that, if you are not compliant with that one, then it will show you the list of those users, so you know immediately where you need to go and remediate that. It will also give you a guide of how to remediate, and you will get this in the CIS benchmark once you download it. But you are always welcome to go for more details of how to do things, how to configure things, to the official Oracle documentation, right? Available at docs.oracle.com. So that will help reducing the complexity, make things more simple, right? And under control. Now, very important thing to note is that because this is a script that is grabbing details of the tenant at the time of running the script, it means the state of, or the posture, the grade you get is at the time of running the script. So if you do it today at 2 o'clock, that's how you look like against or comparing to CIS benchmark at 2 o'clock. If you fix things, let's say it take you a couple of days or a week, we recommend that you run this again, and then you'll get the new score and you will know that you solved these issues. Keep in mind that because it's ongoing and you will keep changing the configurations, people will keep creating things, it's a good practice that you run this frequently, right? As frequent as you need. And now you will see how simple it is to run this. So let's have a quick look of what it takes to run the script. So once you are on your OCI admin console, you need to go. Now you need to be an admin. That's the easiest way, but you don't really have to. If you choose to give this capability or option for someone that is not a super user, that, as you saw in Olaf demo, that someone that is not an administrator, a member of administrator group, you can still do it. And the script has a guide of how you create a group and give it enough privileges that any user in that group will become able to run the script successfully. All they need is just inspect and read only access to different parts of the tenancy. So you can give it this capability really to someone from a reduced privilege or service level admin. So it could be someone from the audit team, for example, that not necessarily a full admin, but can still do the report and the assessment. So once you are on the admin console, you go to the developer tab and you start a Cloud Shell. Now, Cloud Shell is a terminal connected, a Linux terminal connected to your tenant. So you can run commands now and run different scripts. So from the Cloud Shell, once initiated, you go to settings and you upload a file. Now this file will be handed to you by Oracle team, again, ACE or CAM or us, whoever is guiding you through this from Oracle. It's also available on our GitHub repository. I believe it will be good to add link to that, maybe below the video once we publish it. So once you get this compressed file, you just browse and upload it to OCI. It will be in your home folder. So once completed successfully, you just need to unzip it. So that's first command. The second command, you just run the SS script, right? So once done, that's all you need to do, really. The script will be running for a few minutes. It doesn't take much more than this, really. And once done, it will create another compressed file that is named with your tenant name and amended by, it's maybe masked here, but you can see the second part of it. It's amended by a timestamp. That is the date and time of running the script. That will help you to run it as many times as needed, while still, you know, collecting more different files. So you know each file when it was run on against your environment. So that's all you need to do. Next is you download this file into your computer and we start looking at the report. I'll show you a sample one. So now you choose to download and that's it. So once you open the report, it comes with also with HTML, a more presentable kind of report if you want to present it or share it with other teams. But the real details are in Excel sheet format. And as you can see, it covers all the CIS benchmark controls, which are around 50, falling under 5 categories. The first being identity and access management, around 15 controls, networking, so best practices related to networking, logging and monitoring, storage, different kind of storage, object, block, and file, and asset management as well. So for each one of those, for each one of the controls, you will get a score, whether you're compliant or no. And as I told you before, if you are not compliant, it will give you the number of findings where you are not compliant. And there will be another spreadsheet in the same file showing you those 7 findings, right? So for example, if you look at the MFA, the same example we took before, you are not having it configured. Some admins are not using it. Then they have 13 admins not using MFA. And then the other spreadsheet will give you the name, the emails of those 13 admins. So you can go to OCI console and rectify, remediate that. This is just a quick look at the remediation, what needs to be done. CIS benchmark report will have more step-by-step how to do it. And Oracle documentation will have the full detailed steps, how you do it. If you need more details, that's the flow you will take. All right, so really good stuff. We just take a few examples before I conclude. And maybe we have a minute or two for live questions if you wish. So other things than MFA, for example, in identity and access management, on networking, a good one is the script will detect if you have any security lists, which is the virtual firewall on your subnets or virtual cloud networks, opening ingress traffic from all sources to a sensitive admin port like port 22 or port 3389, right? So if you did that, whether by mistake or intentionally because you want to access that network from outside, although the best practice recommend using the bastion servers, like a jump server, whether you did this by mistake or ignorance or deliberately, but anyway, you get this detected and you get a chance to rectify. So in this case, I had 11 violations for this best practice. Now, other things related, for example, to logging and monitoring, you need to have your retention period for around a year. That's best practice. You need to notify someone, whether security team or your SOC team, when a user gets created or when identity provider gets created, right? Also in storage, it will notify you whether you are using Oracle managed keys, or those are just examples. You can have a look at the full list. Or you are using custom managed keys. Custom managed keys will give you more control that you have control over your key, your encryption key for the storage, right? Asset management, like whether you have assets or like OCI resources directly under the root compartment, that's not the best thing you can do. It should be under a sub-compartment so you can apply IAM policies against. So all these checks done, you filter by which one you're not compliant with, start taking action, and that's a great quick way and simple way to start. So that was my part.